I believe that all of these people that are pissed off at Elon Musk and what he's doing with DOGE within our government, that are keying Cybertrucks and throwing Molotov cocktails at Tesla dealerships, are responding in a way that most people do in our society today, from a completely emotional perspective, without taking a step back and processing those emotions, allowing themselves to feel whatever they feel, and applying some logic to the situation, both from why am I feeling this way and how do I express this emotion from a logical perspective. Because what's going on right now makes no sense, and the way that I see this like a lot of other societal movements. These people are probably, I would assume, missing some sense of identity, and they see this as an opportunity to find themselves or attach themselves to this thing so that they can feel important, when in reality they look like whiny little babies that are doing dumb destructive shit that accomplishes absolutely nothing. So that's a long belief with a lot of words. Josh, how do you feel about it?
I agree because, if they think they're doing anything to Elon, they're wrong. I mean, if this is just a form of civil societal protest and it's more of like I don't know, a signal of disdain for what's going on, then okay, that's something. But if they think they're getting at Elon, like, you know, cash is already in hand. Like, you're not doing anything other than impacting the actual Tesla owners. And, um, and, if the people that are doing the vandalism live in that area, I assume that they are going to get bit in the ass, probably slightly, but just by increasing insurance rates.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's more claims in an area, and let's say somebody's going hog wild in Austin, Texas, whatever, and there's a huge uptick in Tesla vandalism, everybody's insurance in that area is going to go up. Yeah, it,
100%.
it may not go up $1,000 or something like that, but it it they're going to have to pay for the damage that they're doing, which, I mean, nobody's thinking about it, and really that's small in the big scheme of things.
Yeah, but again, that goes back to the emotional response. And if you take a step back, just look at that part. So before you go into what you're going to say, just let's apply a little logic to this situation. So I was in the insurance industry for 11 years. I handled claims as an adjuster. I handled claims as a supervisor, as a manager, and I worked on the back end and process where we take a look and figure things out and how are we going to price these. And that's 100% correct. So the more losses in your area, regardless of whether or not you're directly responsible for that accident, it eventually will increase the insurance rates, because it says part of the algorithm, part of the actuarial, I forget that word, process,
Actuarial.
actuarial, where we're weighing risk, is how risky is it to insure a vehicle in this specific area, right? So they're screwing themselves that way. And the other thing too is you see people getting busted every single day doing this, yet you keep doing, like, you think, no, this is a good idea, I'm going to get away with it, I'm going to be the one that gets away with it. And not only are you going to potentially face jail time, which probably not, I mean, I would assume that this is a misdemeanor, but depending on how much damage you
Well,
do.
they're starting to label it as domestic terrorism.
Oh, okay. So you could potentially not only face jail time, but be on a list, a watch list as a domestic terrorist at that. You're going to get fined. You're going to have to pay lawyers. And guess what? That vehicle is insured. I doubt there are many cyber trucks rolling around there that are uninsured. And when they pay for the damage to that shit, which has to be super expensive to fix one of those things, it's stainless steel and it's unlike any other vehicle on the road. The insurance company is coming after you directly, and they can do a lot of things in order to force you to pay. Like in some states, they can suspend your driver's license, they can put a lien on your house, they can do a lot to lean on you in order to get you to pay that money back. So you just think for 2 seconds, like, is it worth taking your little and having your little hissy fit and potentially ruining the rest of your life to do something that accomplishes nothing. It accomplishes absolutely nothing except for, like you said, when they put OEM parts on it, they're making Elon Musk even more money. Like none of it logically makes sense. It is all emotional. It's all ego driven. It is all a lack of identity, and it's just ridiculous. And it's just such a theme right now that is it's driving me nuts because I see it on Facebook all the time, and it does. I don't care. Like, feel however you want, but it's just like, do you get how dumb you look by just being this emotional manipulate? You're manipulated. You've been manipulated. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Sorry, soapbox.
So, yeah, the interesting thing is, and we're not going to be able to see studies on this just yet or results from this, but I'd be curious, 6 months from now, a year from now, whatever it may be. I wonder if Tesla sales actually rise because
They're taking a big hit right now.
no, I'm sure, but I wonder if in the end they rise because it's going to be more a little bit more than 50% of the population essentially voted for this. And by the way, I see yard signs around where I live
Didn't vote for Elon.
that say I didn't vote for Elon. And it's like, well, Elon has been in the picture since before the election. We knew that what he was going to be doing. Like, this is not a surprise. But so more than 50% of the population voted for, the current administration. And so I wonder if, as a sign of solidarity or a sign of like going all in what is going on right now, I wonder if people do buy Teslas as, on the flip side, a sign of societal or civil protest, in that, I'm buying a Tesla because I agree with what's going on right now.
Yeah, I think well, either way, I think this is just like the Bud Light thing, right? In
Yeah.
many ways, like, Bud Light did something that didn't align with their core audience, their core customers values, and they took a huge hit for a while, and then everybody forgot about it and it bounced back because they like the product. And Bud Light has done an incredible job with marketing since then. I love the Post Malone, Shane Gillis commercials. Those are great.
Yeah.
But the people will forget at some point in time. I think this is a little bit different. It's going to take longer to bounce back just because it's a much more expensive product. But the other thing too is like all of these people that are like, okay, well, I'm not going to buy a Tesla now. They're still buying EVs because that is something that they believe in, and they're still using Tesla superchargers because those are pretty much the only option. So no matter how you shake it, like you're paying Elon Musk. And here's the other thing: is this guy is a business genius. Whether Tesla could go out of business and he's going to take a huge hit, but guess what? He'll figure out another way to make a massive amount of money. And he already has all of these other companies that you can't do shit about, like SpaceX, because he has all of these massive government contracts. And the other thing is, if you know anything about Elon Musk, he doesn't care about money. Like, the money is not important to him. What's important to him is his mission, which he needs money to accomplish. But his overall mission is to populate Mars eventually. Maybe not even in his lifetime, but I think he'll do it. I mean, he's the type of guy that's not going to give up until the job gets done. But yeah, so anyway, we got a little off track from where we wanted to take this, but where were
But
you?
it's so I definitely do want to go to the identity piece that you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier. But also I do want to touch on the fact that you mentioned that these people are being manipulated.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just these people. All of us are being
Yeah. Oh,
manipulated.
100%. Yeah.
And I've seen, like, I have moved from being, I was going to say, being one of these people. I would never, go and vandalize a car because I protest, somebody's political beliefs. Like, I would have never done that regardless. But I was in a frame of mind at some point in my life where I was unconsciously and subconsciously so unhappy, so lost, so just I didn't understand myself. I didn't understand, the way I felt and why and all that kind of stuff. So I would wait until something, even if it's something tiny, would trigger me. And I would let out all of that aggression and agitation and, anger, in that situation,
Mm-hmm.
which I do believe is going on right now. And what's, taking a step back from that situation, what's interesting is now that I realize that that process and that cycle and the things I was getting triggered about, not all those things I was getting triggered about were actually real. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
those things I was just being manipulated. I was being told something or given some piece of information that I looked at and I'm like, oh, I don't like that. And I would just release all, this wrath on whoever, social media or whatever. And so many times it wasn't even real. It wasn't even a real situation. It was somebody's opinion that they posed as fact, and I went nuts. So many social media posts now about Elon Musk saying all these just outrageous things or saying things that are true but don't matter. Like
Yeah.
I've seen a huge influx of posts where people are talking about how Elon Musk didn't start Tesla, and he didn't.
No.
He But Tesla was nothing before Elon came into the picture.
Yeah, they needed him as a visionary in order to make it what it is today.
So who gives a shit that he didn't start it? Like he took it and not just ran with it, he sprinted with it.
I'm sure all of those people that are saying that would have done way better with it, Josh.
Yeah, it's like but so many people care. Like, when I have moved from the commenter to the observer of the comments.
Mm.
And for me that's meaningful because before, when I would comment, I would be sucked into the negativity, and I would be manipulated, and I would go off and be like any one of these other people that are just talking out their asses in the comments. So now I'm an observer in that I am genuinely interested and scared and just befuddled by the psychology of our society right now.
Mm.
And nothing shows that better than just the garbage that people post in comments, especially on
Oh.
politics. It is insane. We should be
Yeah,
ashamed of ourselves.
we should be, and the thing is like some of these people are proud of because again, it goes back to this. I think we're just lost as individuals for the most part in this society, and that affects us as a whole, right? Like that our society has no true sense of identity anymore because a majority of the people in our society don't, and it's a scary place to be when you look at eras in this country where we were super strong. And I'm not saying that everything that we were doing was right or a good thing. But if you look at the post depression society, when there was something tragic that happened and everyone came together and were unified, we had a strong sense of identity. World War II, we had a strong sense of identity. And post World War II, we had a strong sense of identity. Post 9/11, we had a strong sense of identity. Shit, like I think even in the beginning of COVID, we kind of regained some of that. But now it's like, what do we stand? What does the United States of America stand for anymore? I don't know. And I think again that comes down to the fact we could solve this and we wouldn't have to wait for something drastic or some tragedy to happen if we all took the time to figure out who we were as individuals and what we stood for as individuals. And when you don't know those things, as you and I have learned firsthand and experienced firsthand, you have a very hard time controlling your emotions. You have a very hard time kind of refraining from commenting on things or even posting things because you have nothing to weigh it against. Is this what I want to be spending my time? I don't know, because I don't know who I am. I don't know what my values are, all those things. It even almost happened to me yesterday. So when it comes to the personal brand that I'm building on social media, I want to help new entrepreneurs. I want to help them maintain strong marriages while they're going through entrepreneurship. I want to help them understand that in the beginning, entrepreneurship is much more of a personal development journey than it is an actual business journey. Those are the things that I want to be talking about. But again, and you and I have this outlet, which is pretty awesome because we can kind of expand and work within that framework, but tie it to things like Elon Musk and all of that. But anyway, I went on this rant. And I was about to post it. Actually, shit, I did post it. That's true. I did post it for like 5 seconds. And I took a step back and I'm just like, wait a second. Like, how does this align with what I want to be talking about, with who I am, with the people that I want to help, the people that I want to serve? And it didn't. But I bet you if I would have left that post up, it would have accomplished the goal that I had in mind. It would have gotten a ton of views. It probably would have gotten a ton of engagement and all of this stuff. But it didn't align with that. Well, it did to a point. It aligns with who I am and what I believe in. But again, like, it just doesn't fit my narrative. It's not what I want to spend my time with. And at the end of the day, was what I was about to say or what I did say, did it actually help anyone? No, because the people that should be listening to it are just going to get so emotionally
Yep.
triggered that they're going to
Yep.
tune it out, because again, they don't know who they are and they don't know what they stand for. They have no sense of true identity because they're not willing to do that deep introspective work. And the beauty of it is, when you do that work, it's like almost all of the other shit, the chaos, the noise in society, you just look at it and kind of laugh. And it's like, that's not important to me. I'm not going to take my time. It not always, they're not perfect, right? But like I just said, I slipped up yesterday for a little bit, but you can quickly redirect. And the word you're a lot fucking happier when you know who you are and you know what you believe in, and you're not tying your sense of identity to external bullshit. And you see it all the time. This happens to people like in the military, right? Like, so I was in the National Guard for 8 years. It was different for me. I never really tied my sense of identity to the military. I was there 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year, and I never deployed. But active duty soldiers or sailors or Marines, whatever, that have spent 22, 25 years in these services, and they get out and it's fucking gone because that they attach their sense of identity to the military. They never took the time to figure out themselves, because when they joined, they were 18 years old, and you're in a different headspace. You're not thinking about that stuff for the most part. Happened to me when I left Progressive. I was the guy that at 26 years old was making six figures. Like, that was, I didn't know that was a big part of my identity, but it was. And I didn't know that until I lost it. But now it doesn't matter. My identity is not an entrepreneur. My identity is not what I do. My identity is, it's my values. I love simplicity. I'm living in abundance. I love having fun. I love my wife. I want to be a good husband. Those things don't matter. It doesn't matter what I do. That's who I am. And you can't take that away from me.
That's I've never thought of it in that way. That's an interesting way of thinking about it. It makes total sense. I'm not what I do. Instead, I am my values, and it just so happens that my values align with entrepreneurship. My values align with having with self development. My values align with fitness. My values align with health, and positive marriage, positive uh, parent child relationship, like that. That makes sense. Yeah,
Well, yeah, and
but
people just take some time to do the work, and they just like, they want this life of happiness, but they just keep doing the same shit that they've done over and over again, beating their head against the wall, wondering why they're still fucking miserable, keying Teslas and throwing Molotov cocktails at fucking Tesla dealerships, acting like children.
I mean, so there's a lot of things in this. I cannot recall the saying, but I've heard a quote from, I don't know if it was Alan Watts or somebody like that, but there was a quote that said something to the effect of, when we respond negatively and emotionally, we're responding at the level of our unhealed traumas or our unhealed
Mm.
triggers,
Oh, that's good.
and and we're and so that is so tough, because I believe that to be the case. I believe it's not the external thing that we're actually responding to.
Hmm.
The external thing is just the stimulus that, allows us to tap into, like I was saying before. For me, I would have all this pent up anger and aggression and agitation, all that, and just waiting for that external trigger to allow me to use that as my punching bag for 5 seconds or for a day or a month, whatever. And I feel like that's largely what's going on now. It's, yes, people are upset about something that is happening external to them, but I think it's because they've got all this pent up anger and aggression and all that about their life, their situation. They're not, living the life of their dreams. They're not pursuing their goals, whatever it may be. And they're letting it loose on something external, something inanimate, something that, quite frankly, they find community in because other people are doing it. And so they're getting a sense of purpose. They're
Yeah.
getting a sense of identity, although it's not long term. It's not real. It's like drinking or doing drugs. It's a short term fix, and on the backside of it, there's long term pain.
And a
And
crash, yes. Like, dude, you imagine being one of these people that get caught on video and looking back at that and just being like, wow, like
but
I am an idiot.
well, I mean, I hope, I don't wish anybody pain. I don't wish anybody to go through a negative, situation. I I I wish, instead of that, I wish that they look through the video, they do some introspective work, and they learn something from it. Like, yes, pain will come. I'm not wishing pain on people. I'm wishing some learning, some lessons, some introspection when they get caught doing this kind of stuff.
I wish them pain. I don't. I mean it. I mean it in this way. Pain is often the catalyst to change.
Yep, yep.
Sometimes you got to have some pain in order to realize, oh shit, like this is fucking up. I dealt with pain for so long, shame, guilt, that was painful. And it took forever because I would project it externally. It was a lot easier to go, oh, this person is my problem, or Elon Musk's doing, or DOGE is the problem, or Tesla is the problem. All of this dumb shit that if you again apply some logic to it, doesn't actually make sense. Logically speaking, you are the problem. You will always be. But the beauty of that is you are also the solution to your problem. But if you tie your problems to all of these external things, they're never going to be resolved because you can't fix those external things. You can only fix yourself. You can only fix what's in your control, and that's only you for the most part. And that, again, it goes back to the sense of identity. It's like the only way to get that is to do the work. It's a lot easier to go key a Tesla and get a little dopamine hit and feel like you're doing something than it is to sit down with your feelings and your thoughts and figure that shit out. So that's number one. And then just it's just the whole thing. I want to get into this here in a second, but I think you have something to say. Oh, you made a point. I would love to do a case study on all of these folks and see how many of them are crushing life. How many of them have good relationships? How many of them have a high level of self-worth? How many of them have successful businesses or careers and marriages and all of these other I can fucking almost guarantee that if you look at these people's lives, for the most part, they might look like they have it together on the outside, maybe some of them, but internally, I bet you these folks are a fucking disaster.
Which, unfortunately, is another issue with our society. We're more concerned about looking all right on the outside
100%.
than we are about actually being all right on the inside. But the one thing that I find disturbing about this whole situation is that there was a book written a long time ago called the Communism Manifesto.
Mm.
And within there, it talks about societal manipulation.
Was that Mao's
And
little red book? Or is that
what's
something
that?
different? Is that Mao's little red book or is that something different?
I I'm not quite sure.
It
It's been
doesn't
a
matter.
while.
I was just curious.
And something that stuck out to me there is the conversation around societal manipulation, and and it talks about how in order to get a society to change, or like in this case, liberals don't like what conservatives are doing, what they're thinking, what they're trying to act on, all that kind of stuff. And so in that book, it talks about the quote unquote playbook is call everybody a Nazi
Mhm.
and a fascist. And it's it's actually really weird that I see both sides saying that.
Oh yeah.
And and we've talked about that a lot, in that both sides of the aisle end up saying the same thing about one another. Maybe not in 100% of the cases, but
Dude,
but a
almost,
lot.
and it's like verbatim. Like it's verbatim. You can go to like a liberal page and a conservative page and look at them, and they're almost verbatim saying the exact same shit about each other. It's fucking mind blowing.
So yeah, so the things that liberals say that they're against, like Nazis, they are going to Teslas and drawing Nazi signs on them. Like it, I don't know. Just logic tells me, if you're so against Nazis, why the fuck would you draw a swastika, or not just draw it, carve it into a car?
Yeah.
I
Wouldn't you draw like a peace symbol or something and like protest like and promote the opposite of whatever it is? Like what are you doing?
I mean, I understand their argument. I'm not saying I agree with it. I and really, I don't understand it. I I I know that they are doing that because they're calling Elon a Nazi, which is, I don't get it.
But it's not his car. It's the person that bought and paid for it that you have no idea what their views are at all.
Yeah.
They might feel the same way you do. They just happen to buy the car because they like the way it looks, even though it's the ugliest vehicle on the freaking planet.
So totally misplaced anger in every possible way in that situation. And by the way, which I think is extremely interesting, is prior to this year, I would love to see a study on this, but it seemed like more liberals bought Teslas than conservatives
Oh yeah, for
for
sure.
just the environmental impact, side of the purchase. And so a lot of a lot of the cars that are being targeted and keyed and vandalized and blown up are owned by liberals.
Yeah, yeah. I would wonder what the ratio is on that with the Cybertruck. I bet it's a little bit
Yeah,
less for two reasons. One, it's a quote
truck.
unquote truck.
Yeah,
Well, come on now. It's something. It has a bed, I guess. And two, like the Cybertruck is relatively new, right? So like I think Elon was kind of red pilling along around the time that the Cybertruck was coming out, because remember, like he did a lot of promotion for that on like with Joe Rogan, which it's funny, and don't forget Joe Rogan was a liberal too at one point, and it was like, what am I doing? Like this party is fucking crazy. And again, like we've talked about this many times, like I'm not a Republican either. Like, you give me an incredible candidate as a Democrat, and you give me RFK Jr. or Tulsi
Oh yeah.
Gabbard running as a Democrat, or anybody that has some freaking logic and common sense to them. I would have 100, and you would have too, 100% voted for RFK Jr. had he won the Democratic nomination. And the best part about this is if he had ran as a Democrat and won the nomination, if they would have actually had a primary and they didn't chase him out of the party because they knew that he couldn't be controlled, these Democrats would be championing him, and they knew, oh my God, RFK Jr. is amazing and blah blah blah. But now they think he's a demon anti-vaxxer, because he's an independent. Remember that he's an independent. He's not a Republican. He's just part of the Trump administration. But yeah, it's crazy.
One
If you,
one thing I
yeah, yeah.
one thing I just got to mention. Anytime I hear somebody refer to RFK as an anti-vaxxer, I have to throw out that he's not an anti-vaxxer. He has never said he's anti-vax. He is against the mRNA vaccination because it uses either aluminum or mercury, which gets lodged in your brain. It doesn't excrete throughout your body like the other vaccines had in the past. And he believes, I'm not going to mention the health issues for, you know, people in the comments are just going to go insane, but he believes that some health issues could be avoided by not using the mRNA vaccine and getting that heavy metal lodged in your brain.
Yeah. Well,
That's what he's against. He's not against vaccines.
yeah. Well, oh man, yeah. We won't get too far down this rabbit hole, but I highly recommend that people listen to the latest. I don't know if it's the latest, but Joe Rogan had she's a female doctor, and she was
Yeah,
just on recently, and listen to her. She's a medical expert. She's been in the medical field for decades, and she's saying a lot of the same things that RFK has been trying to tell us for a long time, but people don't want to listen. Well, he's not qualified. He's not a doctor. Well, she is. And he got all of his information from medical research. He didn't do it himself. He's not out there flawing the scientific process, but he's learning. He's dedicated his life to this, and he knows far more about it than I do. I know that.
I mean, I think any attorney who is
We talked about
pursuing
that.
cases against any industry, they essentially need to become an industry expert.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he knows the details of everything. To your point, he does. He definitely doesn't.
No, I don't
But
think he would say that he did.
no, he definitely wouldn't. But I trust where he's coming from.
Yeah. All right. So here's another thing. So getting back to this topic of this emotional, illogical response to this. So again, people are worked up about what Elon Musk is doing within the government with DOGE. And from what I've seen, a big part of it is that these federal government employees are losing their jobs. Okay, so let's look at this from a perspective. One, is it Elon Musk's fault that the government has become this fucking bloated, this inefficient, this ineffective, that it has to, like, we have to make drastic changes? Is it his fault, or is it every administration's fault up until this point, and our fault as the American people for allowing it to get this far? No, it's not. Yes, you might not like what he's doing, but if we look at this as a business, leave emotion out of it, because there are times as a business owner that you have to make some decisions that come down to business, and they're going to hurt, they're going to suck, you're not going to want to do it, but in order to save the business or make the business profitable, you're going to have to do it. It happens all the time in every industry across the country. Businesses grow too quickly, they grow unchecked, and all of a sudden there are all of these redundancies and inefficiencies and things that are slipping through the cracks. And the first thing that happens is reduction. It's like, we have to cut the waste, we have to cut the fat, and we have to get this back under control. And if it were any other business, it would have gone under already. The United States of the business of the United States of America,
decades ago.
yeah, decades ago. And whether you want to admit the fact that it's a business or not is besides the point, because people were like, well, it shouldn't be a business. Okay, well, it is. Like there's a lot of things that shouldn't happen, but it is. And it has grown because unlike any other business, it has become this monster because it is operated completely unchecked, because it has a unique advantage over any other business that ever existed. It can print profits at will, and there are no consequences to the government. The consequences of that get passed on to you and I as consumers and taxpayers through inflation and higher taxes. Now somebody is coming in and saying, oh shit, no, this is a business. We have to look at it as such. And in order to get this under control and get this deficit under control, we have to make cuts. And these cuts are going to be fucking uncomfortable. And it sucks that people are losing their jobs. But again, to all these people out there that are losing their mind, that these people are losing their jobs, why do you care now that it's federal employees? You didn't care when Ford laid a bunch of people off. You didn't care when McDonald's lays a bunch of people off. Whatever industry it is, you don't give a shit because the media doesn't tell you to care. Your friends on social media aren't telling you to care. You care now because, oh my God, Elon Musk is the devil and people are losing their fucking jobs.
No, he's a Nazi.
Sorry, he's a Nazi. Yeah, I forgot. It's just like, again, they have this emotional trigger, this knee jerk reaction. And okay, so a bunch of people are losing their jobs. What if that's what's needed in order to save this fucking business and the country that we call the United States of America? Because like unlike a normal business that would just go out of business, the way that this happens, if it continues to go unchecked, is two different possibilities. One, a foreign enemy comes in and takes us over, or two, we collapse from the inside and we finally say, hey, enough is enough. This business has, like, we have to stand up to this massive corporation and we got to do something because we're sick of getting fucked, because we are the ones getting fucked by this business going unchecked. It's, again, it like logic, just sprinkle a little logic. And I get emotional about it because I see how dumb people are, and I'm just like, it makes me sad for you.
Yeah, I've got a lot to say. So, government is a business. Their revenue is what we pay into taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the product that we get is all these services and, police and fire and foreign aid and funding foreign wars and,
Funding
helping
transgender studies in
billions of people in
Ethiopia.
other countries and all that. So just to put it into perspective, would you pay, I don't know, $30 for a Big Mac?
No, I wouldn't pay $2 for a Big Mac because I don't eat fast food.
So let's say you would eat a Big Mac.
Yeah,
Any logical person would not spend $30.
no.
That is what's happening in government. In the costs are so high to run the government that our taxes, I don't know. This is subjective, so I get if people don't agree with this. But in order to run our government on an annual basis, I don't know what that number is. If it's $5 trillion, maybe it's probably more. I'm not quite sure.
Too damn much.
Yeah. So if you take it down to what's necessary and needed, and that's subjective, but in order for everybody to have what they have now, so no services taken away to us inside of our country now, let's say that only takes $2 trillion a year. What we are paying for that extra $3 trillion. And so that's essentially like paying, the equivalency may not be exact, but $30 for a Big Mac. Like, who would ever do that?
Yeah.
I would never do that. I would never eat that garbage anyways. But take it down to like a very personal, everyday product level. Would you pay $100 for a hammer, like just a regular bullshit hammer? And no. And so that's essentially what's going on. And I was talking to my friend Nick. He works indirectly for the government, And he had a very logical, very down to earth approach to it. And he just kind of sat there and he's like, this is the first uncertainty from an employment standpoint that I've ever gone through. And he's like,
Welcome to the real world, pal.
no, that's what he said. He was like, I get it. He's like, I don't know how you did it when you were in banking. Like you kind of on a day to day, week by week, month by month basis, kind of unsure if you're going to be employed any
Yeah.
longer. And I mean, I I would expect nothing less from him to have that thought process.
Yeah.
He's a very logical guy.
Right.
But just think about that from an governmental employee standpoint. They had no fear of ever being let go. So that I mean, total broken system right there. If you just expect when you get a governmental job that's it for life,
Mm-hmm.
that's not reality. And if we need cuts because we are bloated and there's cash being side streamed to hidden places through NGOs and whatever else is going on, we should be pissed about that. And the so I mean I go back to the 90s. This and quite possibly other presidents as well, but just one liberal president who brought up this exact thing is Clinton. Clinton wanted to go through and slash the government,
Mm-hmm.
and that he he's a liberal. He ran. This was a major project that he wanted to take on, and now liberals are pissed that it's actually happening. Like the government grows and runs unchecked for decades. Somebody's got to be the bad guy to
Yeah.
end the nonsense.
And they should be the good guy.
They should be.
They should be the good guy. Logically
I mean,
speaking, the
no,
person
I
who
agree.
fix this is the
I
good guy.
agree.
But I get what you're saying. It's the bad guy from the fact that you got to make some fucking hard decisions that are going to affect people's lives.
No, I agree. I mean, what's going on should be celebrated, and I get one reason why it may not be celebrated is because it's a little bit aggressive and arrogant in the way that
Yeah.
they're doing it.
Well, again,
It's almost like they're celebrating, letting people go. And
yeah.
and there's a website and a tracker of all the money that they found, and I get the arrogance of it. It's still a necessary evil. Not the arrogance, but just
Yeah.
the task that they've been assigned.
Yeah. That's my biggest thing is like, and we've talked about this before, is it's yes, the way, especially I think Elon and Trump being in the same room is just it's comical, just because they're so like off the chain and unhinged, and that can pose risk, of course. So I understand that, and I agree when people, they talk about, and we've talked about this in the past, some of the things that personally speaking Elon Musk and Donald Trump have done. I don't agree with it. I don't look at them as example, and it's sad, right? It's sad that I feel this way about our president and somebody who is a very prominent public figure and very influential in many ways. But I can separate the person and the personal things from the decisions that they're making for a government. I don't even agree with all of those things, right? Like, yeah, I think it was a little rash to cut all of these like national park employees and stuff like that. Like, I'm gonna guess at the end of the day, like the national parks aren't what's fucking our deficit and our budget and all of those things. But again, that also I don't know. I don't know that. I'm not on the inside. I am just going to hope that these people are making the right decisions. And if we again and we apply a little bit of logic here, what's the best way to identify redundancies and inefficiencies? It's cut, cut, cut until you've cut too much where you can actually take a look and say, oh shit, what is actually needed here? And then you can go back and you can put those chess pieces back into place. So now we can operate as lean as possible, and we can run efficient, effective, And here's the other thing, and get these people to actually earn their fucking paychecks. It's like you kind of touched on this before, but when you have ultimate job security, you don't have to work very hard. You can do the bare minimum and get by. And in this case, in this business, the ones that are getting fucked are us when people are doing that, because now they're collecting a paycheck off our tax dollars, or even worse, they're collecting their paycheck off of printed money. So again, we didn't really get to that point, but you're talking about the Big Mac and the hammer, Big Mac being $30 and a hammer being $100. That's reality. That's going to be reality, because we just keep printing money and the inflation just keeps going up and up and up and up in order to have enough in circulation to cover this ridiculous deficit. And it's just absurd again that we're demonizing this guy. And like, I don't trust all the numbers. Like, I don't
Yeah.
believe that everything he's saying is happening. I don't know one way or the other, but I take it for a grain of salt. But what I do think should be celebrated is the attempt to be as transparent as possible here, minus maybe this whole signal chat where they were talking about war and apparently, but who knows what that situation is? How do we know who's responsible? Maybe that was set up intentionally. Maybe that was done intentionally to distract people and say, we're going to put this in, we're going to leak this information, and then they're looking at this going, oh, they're doing this while we're really doing that. Like, you guys just, it's like you take everything at face value. And have you not learned to not trust the government? Like, I'm hopeful for our government, but I don't trust them.
Yeah, as far as distractions go, every time I hear something come up about Canada or Greenland being the next states, that reeks to me of distraction
Yeah.
to keep people away from looking at, I don't know, something else, governmental jobs being cut, something else. I'm not quite sure, um, but the so I agree with you on how this is not going to be perfect. This is not going to be. I feel like the expectation is that it's going to be perfect, but I don't feel like you can go into a business or a governmental agency or whatever, and let's say there's 100 employees. I don't know that logically you can precisely come in and say 47 people need to go, and it be a perfect decision. Like, again, social media, people are going crazy on how people were let go, and then people like 2 weeks later were brought back. And it's like, sometimes you got to mess something up in order to improve it. And in a business like, or in business or in governmental agencies like this, it's not going to be perfect. You're not going to let go 47 people and be like, oh, this is perfect. Great. We can operate this way for 2 years. It doesn't work that way.
No, no. And anyone that is actually knows anything about Elon Musk, this is literally his MO. He says if you don't have to add, it's either 10% or 20% back after
Yeah.
you made cuts, then you didn't
You
cut
didn't cut
enough.
enough.
Right. And he did it with, I think it was Tesla. It was Tesla. It might have been SpaceX, but I'm pretty sure it was Tesla, where from a manufacturing perspective, he went through and they basically like automated the whole thing, and then realized like, oh no, shit, like human beings are actually way better suited for some of this work because of the thought and the decision making process that goes into it. And he had to go back and put people back in place. The same thing that he does with SpaceX and these rocket engines. They literally, he'll tell people like, hack the shit out of this thing, take as much off of it as you possibly can, and then we'll figure out what breaks, and then we'll go back and we'll put the pieces back together. He's doing the same exact thing with the government, and people just don't like it because they're allowing their emotions to dictate it. But I mean, kind of
Yeah.
like the last thing that I want to say about this is I really want to drive home this point that if you when you fix your personal problems, and I mean your internal personal problems, your lack of sense of identity, your lack of values, your lack of purpose, your lack of understanding who you are and what you stand for and what you want out of life, you connect with some level of spirituality to help you along the way, whether that's formal religion, or it's a relationship with the universe, or a belief in the connected consciousness. And however you get to that point is up to you. But all of those external problems, they come into perspective, and you're able to navigate them much more successfully because you're not distracted and triggered by every little thing, because you see what's truly important. So if you want the world to be better, just be better yourself. Do the hard work. You will not regret it. It's like a fitness journey, right? It sucks in the beginning. It's a struggle. You don't see the results as quickly as you'd like to, and then all of a sudden you start seeing progress, and you realize how much happier you are, and now you're addicted to the process of continuing to get better. And your world will be a lot better as a result. Thus the entire world ends up being better too. We can impact so much change at a societal level as individuals.
I agree, and I also see a major pitfall in what you just said. Not
Uh-oh.
because I agree with the pitfall, not because I agree with it, because it's a major hurdle for people to get over when they're lacking identity and they haven't done the personal work, they haven't done the self discovery, and they find a cause that gives them identity. They wrap up, like they assume that cause, they assume that purpose, whatever, as theirs. And they internalize it to the point where if anybody tells them that they're wrong, they lash out like, an insane person. And and so if you have this conversation with somebody who falls into that, they may say, "Oh, I have an identity. It's
Burning
keen
Teslas.
Tesla. Yeah, yeah. It's rioting. It's looting. It's whatever the movement at the moment may be. They may latch onto that and internalize it as their identity. And so I think everything you said is correct. I think a major thing, and one that I, quite frankly, I'm very doubtful that our society can get to, is the point where they back up and they say, this movement is not me. This is something that I might align with, but this is not me. And also be able to agree with the intention maybe of the movement, but have enough sense and logic in them saying, like, everything that this is about, I do not agree with.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It feels, and maybe it all comes back down to a lack of identity. Somebody providing, on a silver plate, a movement, a purpose, or whatever, of something that they, are being sold to, that they should buy into, and people just absorbing that, internalizing it, and just running with it. I mean, that's a major problem.
Yeah.
I think what the real answer is that we need to be able to take a 30,000-foot view of our existence in this world and everything that's going on, and pick what makes sense for us, and not just take anything at face value and internalize it and incorporate it into our beings.
100%, man. It's easier said than done. Like, I get it. The system is designed to do this, right? So I get it being hard, and it's not just this. It's entrepreneurship, it's building business. It's hard. It's intentionally made hard. But just keep that in mind, that it's also not impossible. None of anything that we're saying is impossible. Figuring yourself out is not impossible. Running your own business, not impossible. Like, it's hard, especially to start. And then once you figure, it's just like anything else, right? Personal development, entrepreneurship, it's like starting off a sport or a new skill. It sucks in the beginning, and you hate it because you want to be good at it, but you're not. And then all of a sudden you keep showing up, and now you're good at it, and you see the results, and it's like, okay, I want to keep going with this. Same thing. That's personal development. It's all of this. So just you got to get started, though. You have to have the courage to get started and to be
Yeah,
uncomfortable
yeah,
and look like kind of a fool in the beginning.
yeah.
All right, brother. Well, I got to run. Oh shit. I'm spinning this pen around, and it's
Oh
apart, and
no.
dude, I have ink all over me.
Oh no.
I want wonder if I had. No, I don't have any on my face, dude.
No,
I'm
I don't
looking
see
down
any.
and there's just blue stuff splattered everywhere. Fuck. Oh my god. All right. Well, I'm gonna go clean this up, and then I gotta go to jujitsu. Oh my god, dude. There's ink everywhere. Look.
Oh man. Oh gee.
All right. Well, on that note, I'm gonna go clean this up and get to jujitsu. So we'll talk later this afternoon about some business stuff.
All right, sounds good.
Later,
See ya.
bro.